and it was just really, and definitely inspiring and fun for us to kind of take steps together in some of these things. One of the college classes, we didn't have any footage of, or didn't put any footage on. They asked this question. He taught Christian ethics, so they were asking us questions about what it's, how do you live a Christian lifestyle, and one of them asked, now that you're married, how do you keep God at the center? How do you walk with God kind of together? We kind of looked at each other, and I shared about how I kind of stay close to God through prayer and reading, and he kind of shared about how he connects with God through different things. And as you're talking, we realized, well, we don't really do it together. Like, I kind of do my thing and tell him about it, and he does his thing and tells me about it, and that was kind of the extent. So it was good just to kind of have those conversations and work together.
In that same class, we were talking. The kids were asking about. Well, we were sort of a panel, right? So this was Christian ethics, and we were a two-person panel, and they would just fire questions, almost all about family stuff, marriage specifically. So this is just really on the minds of college kids, at least in Indonesia. And I sort of went into this long, detailed explanation about my fear before getting married and how this was crippling me and all this stuff. And I ended up coming out with this conclusion that was, you don't have to get married. Like, that is, the thing that is clear, at least in Matthew 19, Jesus talks about commitment to relationship. And this really struck me as I was in the midst of all this fear before getting married. And so this was like, after class, about 5 different kids came up and said, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. So you don't have to get married. Like, that doesn't require, it's not a requirement for a happy life.
I think it's a good thing we left. Their parents probably were not happy. So,
again, I was talking about the really cool stuff about some of these Asian family dynamics. I think there's some less cool stuff, which is significant pressure to follow a certain mold. So that plays out in interesting ways. Troy was telling us about sort of as he works with kids in their faith. I'm going to do what my dad tells me. That's sort of the deal. So if I experience a different interest, a different desire, a new thing that is coming about, it's not really a choice. So I think that's a challenge for them.
And Indonesia was really good. We could tell many more stories about that, just as we could India. In fact, I wanted to stay in Indonesia. I didn't want to leave India. I wanted to stay in Indonesia. I was ready to skip out on our time in Hong Kong. I think I could have stayed for a few more weeks and hung out with him there. But we did go to Hong Kong, and it was really good. We had a lot of time to rest and explore that city, which is a lot like New York City, so it kind of felt like we were easing back into Western culture. Oops, those are more pictures from Indonesia. But kind of felt like we were easing back into Western culture, but we actually found this island kind of off the Hong Kong Central Island, Cheng Chau Island, and it had a retreat center on it called Bethany Retreat Center that we stayed at, and it just felt really like a good way to start making our journey back here to stay in a place called that. And they're essentially a retreat center for missionaries that are in Asia that need a break, so they go there, and it was a real quiet, peaceful place. So it was a good time. We spent a lot of time kind of just praying and being together and reflecting on, like, what does all this mean? And we still have a ways to go with that. This is definitely just an overview and kind of the tip of the iceberg, but we're really glad that we had the opportunity to share with our community here about some of the stuff we experienced.
Yeah, I think as we continue to think and sort of discern what all this means for us, we hope to share more about it the times that we're scheduled to speak. I think we'll sort of dive into some of these stories and themes. I think one thing that really struck me that I'll leave with is the difference between following God and following religion. And it really struck me that there's a lot of false stuff everywhere. Here, I think Western Christianity is equally as false as Hinduism. And so the issue still is about following God. And so that becomes sort of a whole different equation then. So I just want to, Lord, I just offer this prayer. Just pray that we can be open to you, your ways, and that we cannot be bound by our families, by our culture, by our religion, by all this stuff that just directs us. So I pray, Lord, that you will continue to lead all of us in this room in your way, because that way is accessible to everyone, and it is the way that life makes sense. So please, Lord, go with us today and teach us these things. Amen. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you.